Hey, this is Mark Washington with making the cut for episode 2 of In This Corner. Of course, we're going to start off with a recap of Canelo Alvarez and Caleb Plant. The fight pretty much played out the way I thought it would play out, even though I thought it would go to decision, as I said in the preview. But Canelo did the things I thought he would do. Actually, he kind of started faster than I thought he would. I had Plant winning only one round. I do know that some people's scorecards had him winning 2, and even some had him winning 3 rounds, which is fine. Again, I think that was one of those fights that it was depending on what you were looking for, or kind of what you were rewarding. Whether you gave him 1 round, 3 rounds, 2 rounds, it didn't matter. But Canelo showed why he's the best fighter in the world right now by controlling the pace, controlling the distances, being able to have precise punching, just with all kinds of power. And this was the problem that Plant had. And what I was worried about with Plant is, if you're going to beat Canelo by boxing him, you have to be a superior boxer. You cannot be a good boxer. You have to be a superior technical boxer. And Caleb Plant is not that. That was Floyd Mayweather. That was Lara. That was those guys who gave Canelo problems. Those guys are tremendous, superior boxers. And I knew that Caleb Plant was not in that category. So the only other thing is, could Caleb Plant hurt Canelo Alvarez sometime in the fight? I never believed he could. And he didn't. I mean, he fought a good fight. Now, his game plan was perfect for the type of fighter that he is. So I'm not faulting Plant in anything that he did. It was the fact that he was not going to outbox Canelo. Canelo did a good job, even when Canelo was following him around the ring, as opposed to cutting the ring off like he should. He still was effective enough to win rounds. Now, I give Plant a lot of credit. He did slip a lot of punches. He even tried a little bit of the shoulder roll and those type of things to kind of keep Alvarez at bay, but he couldn't keep him at bay. And then that 11th round got really ugly. Plant looked like he was spent. He spent too much time up against the ropes throughout that fight. And I was kind of surprised, because there was times where Plant backed himself into the ropes. It wasn't Alvarez putting him there. He backed himself there. So again, the fight kind of played out the way I thought it would play out. So the next question becomes, who is next for Canelo Alvarez? Now, I can tell you who should be next. It should be Demetrius Andre. But we all know that Canelo's not going to fight him, because that's one of the guys who can use the ring to his advantage and have a chance to outbox Canelo. And Canelo's not going to have any of that. So the first thing that comes up is Jamal Charlo. I think there's tiers and levels, as they always say. There are levels to this, there are tiers to this, and there is. And I'm not sure that Charlo is in that tier. I don't know if he's ever been on that sort of stage against that sort of fighter, even though I do think that's one of those ones that would do great at the gate, do great pay-per-view numbers. It would be terrific. I'm not sure that I would pick Charlo in a fight like that. Dimitri Bivol, I say this all the time. I don't even know what to think about that guy, because one second you think, especially early on, you're like, oh, this guy's the next. But it seems like at times he's plateaued. And I don't know if, again, his style can be Canelo. Now, can he hurt Canelo? Now, that's the thing. That's the question. If those two fight, can he hurt him? Right now, I mean, I don't know how to answer that question. A piece of me says no, that he can't hurt Canelo, because I don't think Canelo would put himself in a position against a fight like that to be hurt. But maybe he does have the punching power that he could get lucky or string together 2 or 3 punches. Or maybe he hits him like a punch, like, remember when Mosley hit Mayweather in that second round? I mean, he hit him with 2 overhand rights, and people were already trying to type out the article on how Mosley upset Mayweather and Mayweather recovered. I don't know if Bivol can do the same thing. And last but not least, David Benavidez. He's also been mentioned for the next fight for Canelo. But here's what we know. Canelo's won't be off until May. He's indicated that he's going to fight. We're assuming it's going to be Cinco de Mayo. And we'll see who that next opponent is. Again, I would love for it to be Boo Boo Andrade. I know it's not going to be him. Would I take Charlo? Absolutely. I think that would be a fight that's intriguing. I think that would be a fight that would get the fight fans kind of pumped up and really, really interested. In our next segment, in this corner, we're going to take a look at, do we appreciate Shawn Porter as we look towards the November 20th fight with Terence Crawford? Welcome back to In This Corner. You know, you have to ask the question, do we really truly appreciate Shawn Porter? Shawn Porter is 31-3-1, and his 3 losses are Kell Brook, Keith Thurman, and Errol Spence. And I thought he represented himself very well in all 3 of those fights, especially against Errol Spence. I thought he was very, very successful. The Keith Thurman fight, I thought he was successful enough. Those are his 3 losses. And his wins, he has a win over Yordenis Ugas, and I know it was kind of controversial, but he has a win against him. He has a win against Danny Garcia, Andre Berto, Adrian Broner. The resume for Porter just seems like it should get enough attention. You know, and he's a fan-friendly fighter. In an era where people are looking for, at times, especially casual fans, they're looking for entertainment over boxing skills. And I'll always bring this up. Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran won when Duran beat Leonard in Montreal. It was a lot of criticism of Sugar Ray Leonard that he fought the wrong fight. No one said, oh, you know, even though he lost, you know, it was an exciting fight, because we were in an era where boxing was probably more popular. It was more mainstream, and people felt like, I'm here to watch the better boxer. I'm not here to watch a bar fight. And even then, Sugar Ray fought Duran's fight and lost by a split decision in what was an out-and-out war. In the second fight, bigger ring, New Orleans, Roberto Duran was a little bit out of shape. Sugar Ray Leonard used every inch of that ring moving. Used every inch of that ring. The same thing people, criticize Floyd Mayweather for. And even though Leonard had numbers smaller than Mayweather in that fight, and you know what people said after that? Sugar Ray Leonard's brilliant. Why? Because he fought the right fight. Shawn Porter does things where he can fight the right fight for Shawn Porter and be fan-friendly in this era, which to me should probably give him a little bit more appreciated. Just for the simple fact is, to me, it's harder to be a fan favorite in today's boxing than it was back in my day, because I do feel like, and I hate to be this guy, that back in my day, boxing fans were more educated than boxing fans are today. But, he's his bull in the china shop type of style. He keeps coming forward. He tries to get you in the ring. He does have boxing skills. He can get into a middle ring. He'll work. He'll do those things. He'll get behind his jab. He'll try to use angles. So I think Shawn Porter, especially in this day and age, isn't appreciated the way he should be appreciated. And he's going to make that fight very, very good November 20th. I'm not ready to do a preview of the fight. That will be probably sometime next week. But he is the type of fighter that will bring people to the gate, and he loves the big stage. And this is going to be the one thing about Crawford. You can argue this is the first fighter that Crawford has fought that is not going to be in awe of the stage he's going to be put on, because Porter's resume and the fights he's been involved in, he's been on that stage before. So you have a good fighter with a great corner that's been on that stage before. We could see a classic. But again, not ready to do a preview of the fight. When we come back, we're going to look at the other side. How big is this fight for Terence Crawford's legacy? This is Marcus Washington with In This Corner. Welcome back to In This Corner. So we're going to take a look at Terence Crawford and his legacy. And you say, well, Marcus, what are you talking about his legacy? People argue that he is pound for pound the best fighter in the world, but it's his resume, and not to any fault of his, and we're not going to go into the business side of this. Terence Crawford's resume just doesn't have the names right now that kind of pops out. Last 8 fights, have not seen the scorecards. He's beaten the likes of Kell Brook. He's beaten Amir Khan. He's beaten Jose Benavidez. He's beaten those guys. And, that should be enough to get you on the radar. And it is. And the one thing I will say is, just because he has not been able to make this super fight, the people who cover boxing know better than to omit him from the pound for pound list, because we all know how great Crawford is. It's just getting the opportunity, and like I said, we're not going to get into the business side of it, but getting the opportunities to get that that big fight. He's 37-0, and because of that resume, this makes this fight huge to his legacy. That 37-0 doesn't mean anything if he loses to Shawn Porter. There is no doubt about that loss will count more than those 37 wins. Now, to no fault of his own, even if he wins the fight and he gets Errol Spence next, we don't know what we're going to see out of Errol Spence, going forward. First it was the accident, then it was hurting his eye and the retina issue in training that caused the cancellation of the Pacquiao fight, which puts Spence in an interesting position because he lost out on a huge day with Pacquiao. And then Pacquiao loses to Ugas and decides to retire. Now you can argue whether you think he's going to stay retired or not, but that's another argument for another day. So now if Spence is probably rooting for Crawford, and instead of probably taking a warm-up fight, Spence might say, all right, as soon as I get healthy, if Crawford wins this fight, I want to make that fight now, because as I've seen, I'm not promised tomorrow. One, I'm not promised that I won't get hurt again. Two, I'm not promised if that fighter that I want to fight is going to win the fight prior to my fight. So Crawford with the win puts himself in a great position because he could get an Errol Spence next, an Errol Spence that might not be prepared to fight him. But I feel bad for Crawford. So yeah, I do think this is a legacy fight for him. I do think this is a must win for him. And against a guy like Shawn Porter, I think there might need to be some style points. I don't know if a split decision win over Shawn Porter helps Terence Crawford. I think it will help the fans. And I certainly think it would help boxing. And I do think that Shawn Porter's type of fighter, it could be a split decision fight for all I know. Because like I said in the last segment, Porter is vastly underappreciated. I won't say he's underrated. He's underappreciated. So for Terence Crawford, I'm sure he's training hard. We're within 2 weeks of this fight. I cannot wait for it. And again, this fight is going to mean a lot to his resume. So that's we are at the end of In This Corner episode 2. Please leave some comments, what you would like to hear, what you'd like to see in episode 3. Again, we'll talk about Crawford and Porter more in depth. Probably get a prediction or two out of that fight. We're also going to try to solidify guests. We're still working on that. But thank you for joining us for In This Corner, and look forward to seeing you next time.